Welcome to our weekly live stream of Daily Detroit. I am Jair Stays, coming to you from our studio at Tech Town. It's a little bit louder as we get started here. There is a monthly market.
That's right.
Talking about lots of new vendors, things like that in the lobby area here of Tech Town. So if a little bit of noise comes through in the next few minutes or whatever, we apologize. But just because cool things in Detroit are happening right here. Welcome, everyone. I am Jair Stays, as I said, and joining me is Mr. Norris. Howard, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. You know, I'm not as caffeinated as I usually am, but you know what? We gonna push through anyway. Why? Because the people deserve it.
The people do deserve it. Before we get started, I want to mention our thoughts are with the people in Minneapolis right now with the terrible thing that happened. I strongly encourage you to follow local Minneapolis sources if that's something that you're very much into. We will not be getting into it because we are not there.
No.
And it's part of our rule, actually, with like local media that I think is a little different than some places. We don't run AP Wire copy. We only talk about national issues when they focus on Metro Detroit or Michigan. And that's intentional because we don't like to talk out of our ass.
No, we don't. And, you know, also the folks on the ground, the journalists and reporters out there could do a significantly more comprehensive job than we ever could. We would just be talking secondhand from the reporting they've already done out there anyway. And so, again, our thoughts go out to everybody out there in Minneapolis and the tragedy that's taking place there. And if you want more information, as Jared said, we suggest you follow the Minneapolis local affiliates and go online and see anything happen there. But, you know, yet again, another tragic school shooting that, you know, has taken the lives of a few people and injured many more. So.
And sadly, there's going to be thoughts and prayers over a situation where people were actually praying.
Yeah.
So that is something.
Yeah.
Let me give you a little bit of a rundown of what's happening as people start to join the chat and join the conversation. We will be here until I think a little bit after 3. I gotta go. I got a vet appointment for. It's all normal. It's all good.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do our office hours. We're gonna try this every month. We're gonna try this for a little while. Taking all of your listener questions and kind of condensing them into an office hours episode where we answer questions about Detroit, the region, the state, the project, anything you want to ask us. We get them from our listeners. We get them from our newsletter readers. We get them from social media. There are some folks that we put the call out for, some really thoughtful stuff with that. So the show will do our regular podcast show as you're joining us. And then afterward, if there's some live chat or some things back around, we'll go ahead and do that. As I said, we're going to be with you till about 3 o'clock, something like that, talking about all these things. I know that it is really coming up on the holiday.
Yeah.
It's one of those slower news weeks.
Yeah, you know, as people tend to sit back and try to prepare themselves for the holiday weekend. You know, we got the Jazz Fest coming up this weekend, which is one of my favorite festivals in the city. Because, listen, let me tell you something. All the uncles and the aunties that are about to be downtown, man, it's about to be incredible. You about to see some cool outfits. You about to see some folks with some wonderful linen on, getting their last little summer fits off before it cools off too much. And you're going to get some great music, too. Listen, I grew up on jazz. Before I even listened to hip-hop, I listened to jazz. It's still it's a comfort music for me. I listen to a lot of it, whether it be straightforward, smooth jazz. I listen to it all.
Very nice. Do you want to hand me that poster underneath your bag over there?
Yeah.
Because this is coming up. We had...
also, Dally in the Alley, too.
Dally in the Alley, yep. And then there's this. We had an episode on it. You want to go back into the YouTube and check it out. But it's the Detroit Sandwich Party here.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Easter Market.
Roll out of there with sandwiches. Carlos Parisi, longtime fan of the show. He's doing a segment with WDIV, which is really cool.
We love that.
Yeah, like we love friends of the show doing well wherever they're doing it. And it's always great to have Carlos come by. It was a really fun and interesting conversation when he came by earlier. Was it last week? I don't know. It all blends. August just blends together.
You know what? I heard a phrase today that said every day has become Blur's Day.
Blur's Day.
And
it's just
so
Blur's Day.
Every day is Blur's Day. But I think it's fantastic. I got a lot of festivals to go to this weekend. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a festival each day. So I'm gonna do like the Jazz Fest, like first half of Saturday, and then Dally for the rest of Saturday, and then I'm gonna do like, wait, when's the sandwich one?
Sunday.
That's Sunday. So I'm going to do the Sandwich Fest Sunday afternoon, then go back to Jazz Fest. And then Monday, I'm probably just go to my mom's house. And
You know what's so great about
eat
this?
food.
You know what's so great about this is that you can literally just, when you need to go to the bathroom, you can just go home.
I just go home.
You need a drink?
Just go home. That's the beautiful thing. Dude, I love living downtown. You know how much I do that? I did that at a movement this year where, and listen, first of all, I thank Pak Chahal and all the people at Movement for allowing us press access and letting us get to the VIP, because at the VIP, you get the really nice bathrooms and all that. Same thing with Afrofest, or Afrofuture, excuse me. But if I got to, take some time in the restroom, yeah, man, I just walked home. It was great. It was fantastic. I even took showers. You know how great that is? You go to a festival all day, you be smelling, you be sweaty, sticky, gross, feeling all bad. And then it's like, nah, I just went home, took a shower, changed clothes, and came back out.
That is the way to go.
Yeah, you got to do a fit change. You got to have a day outfit and you have an evening outfit.
We were out the other weekend,
Yeah.
and I made you not do a fit change. I almost feel guilty about it now.
I usually would have. But
I know. I interrupted.
It's okay. It's okay. But you know what? I appreciated it because we hung out. We had a good time.
We did. All right. I was putting stuff up on social media so folks that see that we're up there. We got a few people in. I know it's a holiday week, so it's going to be maybe it'll be slower. Maybe y'all will surprise me.
Maybe Mr. Duckett saying he got a hotel room for the Jazz Fest. That's the move.
Are you at a party with Mr. Duckett?
Hey, you know what, Mr. Duckett? If you are downtown, man, let's link up.
That would be
link up,
amazing.
'cause
I
you
want to
are-
see a selfie of you two.
Let's get a selfie because you are always in the chat. You always showing love, and we appreciate that. So if you first of all, hit me up on socials at Great Laker Nora, Great Laker Nori, and just follow me and hit me up, man, and let's see where you at for the Jazz Fest, and let's get a selfie in, bro.
It'd be great. All right. Let's get into the show. As I said, we will record the show, then we'll take questions. If you've got questions, because we're recording the podcast that is audio format, that's the main thing we do. Podcast newsletter. We're doing this live stream because we want to include more people.
Yeah.
We want to do something fun,
Yeah.
right? So please don't think we're ignoring you. Throw that stuff in the chat. We'll circle back to it afterward.
If your question's dumb enough, we might ignore you.
Well, what's also interesting that a bunch of these are questions because we're doing office hours.
That's right.
So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Mr. Duckett says, bet. You're on.
Let's
on.
get it. Let's get it.
Yeah. I love this. Okay. Oh, by the way, we still need to get that Southfield guide on, too.
We do.
First thing in September.
We do. We listen. I want the whole Metro Detroit diaspora on the show at some point.
That is amazing. All right. So we'll get into recording the show. If the date sounds weird, it's because it's for tomorrow. So if you're here with us today, you're getting tomorrow's show today. You're ahead of the game.
Look at you.
All right. Let's get into it. And we are recording for the audio podcast in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Thursday, August 28th, 2025, coming to you from our studio at Techtown in the Paris of the Midwest. That is Detroit. I am J.R. Stays, and joining me across the table is none other than Motor City royalty, the Prince of Brightmoor, Norris Howard. How are you?
What's going on out there, Detroit? I'm very excited. This is about to be a holiday weekend, one of my favorite holiday weekends in the whole year. I'm excited. Lots of festivals, Jazz Fest, Dally in the Alley, Sandwich Fest.
Sandwich party.
Sandwich party out there in Eastern Market. I can't wait.
It's going to be amazing here in Detroit. Well, the great thing about this is that either people are gone and they're like tuned out, or they're in the city enjoying this last official kind of like a summer. I mean, I know there's more stuff going on into September, but kids are going back to school. All
That's
that
right.
vibe is shifting.
You know what? We had a conversation about that, about how on Labor Day weekend, tons of people go up north for their last little hurrah at the cabins or whatever, or on the lakes or whatever in the middle of the state. And that's not me, man. For the summer, I want to be in the city. I want to be where the energy is, man. Like, that's what I want.
Because here's the thing. I'm not knocking going up north. Fall on a lake with
It's
the
great.
color change.
Great.
Hell yeah.
Like Idlewild in late September.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait.
I've not been to Idlewild.
Yeah.
So
my family's got some property up there, so I think in end of September we'll go up there.
that sounds amazing. So for today's episode of Your Daily Detroit, we are doing office hours by popular request. We get so much wonderful listener, reader, social media feedback. And I think what we're going to try to do once a month is do office hours. And if you're listening to the show, know that we're actually recording this in front of a live audience on YouTube.
That's right.
As well. So that's something you can check in on when we record this, on Wednesdays, because, it's the magic of audio and editing.
That's right.
Office hours is an opportunity to talk to people, to understand what the community wants us to talk about, to focus on what the community needs. So I say we get into it. Now, I'm prepped. Producer Adam is prepped. You are not prepped because you don't like to go in knowing the questions.
No, I like to give y'all a raw, visceral, 100% authentic reaction.
All right. So let's get into it. They are from all over.
I love it.
All over. Melissa from Berkeley, why do you cover more than the city of Detroit? I appreciate that the biggest city is the center, but that you don't leave us out. Some smaller outlets that cover the kind of stuff I'm into do not talk about the suburbs at all, even some with Metro in the name. Really like the festival preview a few weeks ago. I didn't know that was happening in my town. So I think she's referring to the one that I talked about with the lady from the Berkeley Southern Oakland Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
And the Berkeley Fest. Everything's a fest.
Everything is a fest. And you know what? To answer your question, I think there's a two-part answer.
You have your two-part answer, and I'll add my notes.
I think the first part of it is the positive part of it is that, hey, it's Metro Detroit. And so, obviously we know that the city of Detroit is the biggest population center and all that, but also at the same time, there's tons of stuff happening in the area. People come in from all over, and I think it would be silly of us not to cover some of the cooler things happening across the metro area. The more pessimistic, realistic reason is that majority of Metro Detroit doesn't live in Detroit. Majority of Metro Detroit lives outside of Detroit. And so to cover anything that covers anything with any sort of brevity, we need to cover things in the suburbs.
And it's not even a majority. It is, I think right now it's about
a super majority.
15% of the population lives in the city of Detroit now in the region. Most regions, that's more of like 30 to 35.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, for me, philosophically, and I'm going to be like, I'm going to joke here that I am a white guy podcaster here calling back to Roman times. But
how often do you think of the Roman Empire?
Never, actually. Almost never. I took Latin. And then I actually took Latin, so I don't need to think about it anymore.
Right.
The city is a hub. We have multiple hubs in our area. We're a lot more like LA than we are Chicago.
That's true.
With lots of different centers. And the thing is that a city is supposed to be a center of people coming from all over. Otherwise, it's just another place with a bunch of houses.
Well, yeah, because you think about Detroit. Like Detroit functions as a hub, but so does Royal Oak, and in many cases also so does Ferndale. Like it depends on what you define as a hub for you and your community or you and your family. But there's many hubs. Warren is a hub. Dearborn is a hub.
The Grosse Pointes have a hub.
The Points are a hub. So there's a lot of other places to where if you interface with that community, you kind of really don't need to come to the city very often unless it's to go to the sports games.
But the sports games, the culture, the museums, so many things are really draws for downtown. It's also the spiritual heart of the region.
Absolutely. And
that everything is
be
tied to. And one of the things why the region, people don't know this, or they don't think about this, but Metro Detroit has been flat in populations, almost flat in population since the 1970s, whereas most of the country has grown a bunch. And I'm not talking about the city of Detroit, I'm talking about the region. One of the reasons that is because our heart has not been doing as well economically. As Orlando Bailey of Outlier Media said, economic apartheid happened with the suburbs and the city for a long time, and that's just now starting to break down. Mm-hmm. And so it's important because for us,
and that's why you're starting to see growth again. And that's the thing is that people didn't realize is that the city of Detroit had positive growth for the first time in many years, but the state of Michigan just saw positive growth in population for the first time in something like 15 years. And so a lot of that is attributed to the fact that the city center has more energy around it. And the city center of the state of Michigan is Detroit, as much as people don't want to say that outstate.
Yeah, and I want to include people. I want people to
Yeah.
be part of something bigger. We're all tied together. Policies, transit, environment, like the climate, right? Like the
We all had to breathe all
smoke-
that terrible smoke.
Right. Industrial pollution doesn't care about city or neighborhood boundaries.
Nope.
Right? Like all these things are important. Birds don't care.
Nope.
So there's multiple reasons to do that. And I know it's a more holistic view. Another thing is like a little technical point. I think she's kind of talking about some of the nonprofit outlets out there, and I have a lot of love for them. Outlier, we mentioned.
Absolutely.
Bridge Detroit. They're nonprofits, and so they actually have like fences around their mission.
Yep.
And so they only can cover that as part of their financial thing. So that's why it's important to have an ecosystem of things that work together. We highlight them, bring them on. We had Malachi from Bridge. We've had
Absolutely.
Aaron. We've had Sarah. We've had Orlando from Outlier. It's important for all of us to work together where we can because everyone has different missions and different things that they're serving. All right, let's move on. Bobblehead Guru from Threads. Please talk about Detroit City FC's new stadium and what it means, positive and negatives for Corktown. We should add less parking so fans would be encouraged to walk around and visit restaurants and shops.
So number one, here's what I'll say. In particular for the Southwest and for Corktown, do I think it's a net positive? Absolutely. I think it'll be a huge boom for the area. I think it'll be something that takes in one of the city's biggest eyesores with that hospital, it tears it down and puts in something that people are going to use that is going to be a symbol of that neighborhood and that area, just like the train station is. And I think that's fantastic. In terms of parking, we unfortunately got to get over the parking part. We got to get over that. It's we don't have transit, dog. It's got to be copious amounts of parking, which there will be a parking structure with this building, with the stadium, but there has to be.
And one thing I would note, looking at the plans that I've seen so far in community benefits, there is a minimum amount of parking that the city by law tells you
Mandates.
you have to have
Yep.
if you are a sporting venue and how many seats you have.
Yep.
They are very near the minimum with that. They're doing the minimum with that. So I think they're in spirit with you in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But there is more to that story. The reality is that especially where it's at, people are going to be driving. They're going to be getting down there. Now, there are a lot of concerns, too, about making sure there is enough parking. I've heard from businesses and others that don't see it the same way you do, and they say, well, you got to have plenty of parking because they don't want, people pushed out. There's residents that are concerned about parking on the streets. Like, there's two sides to this one, but in spirit, I'm very much in agreement with you because I like those kind of urban neighborhoods, and if you're going to do that, you want to do it someplace like Corktown. I think it makes a lot of sense there, especially with the residential developments they're talking about.
That's also a big thing is that along with this stadium is that it's really actually supposed to function almost as a pocket neighborhood where there's going to be some additional housing that is going to be going up, some apartments and some townhomes around there. There's going to be retail. So it's almost going to be a neighborhood within a neighborhood. And that will increase the foot traffic in Corktown. And so, listen, do I think it'll be mostly positive and net positive? Absolutely. I think, will it increase traffic on Michigan Avenue and around Corktown? Absolutely, but that's a good problem to have. I think
about what happened when the hospital was hopping and there were employees and people coming in and out. Like, these are things, that was a constant level of traffic.
And I think this is something that as Detroit, as a whole, et al., so to speak, we have to kind of get away from that. We have to kind of get away from the concept that there's going to be traffic. Oh, no, I don't want to deal with all this traffic. Every city on planet Earth, when stuff is happening, has traffic. Every city, regardless of how good. If you go to a Knick game at Madison Square Garden, guess what? There's traffic.
How are you supposed to get a number if there's not traffic?
Exactly. You're supposed to be stuck in traffic and hop out and see old girl dancing out of her sunroof and get her number. That's a Detroit tradition. So my thing is that we got to get over that. There's going to be traffic. But you know what happens with traffic sometimes? You roll past, you get stuck in traffic, and you see the restaurant you haven't been to yet. You see the open plot of land that you inquire about and maybe want to start your business there. You see the bar that you haven't been to in years that your uncle and your dad used to go to that you want to visit with your family now. That's the benefit sometimes, not just of traffic as an idea. Yeah, we know it's terrible for the environment, but I'm trying to get people to accentuate the positive of being in these neighborhoods and not just hopping on a damn freeway again, right? Like being on these surface streets, being in Corktown, having to go through Southwest Detroit, having to potentially come down, get a hotel room at the Godfrey or downtown somewhere or Cambria, and taking an Uber or taking the bus down Michigan Avenue to go to the match. These are all things that are good that we need to encourage, as opposed to coming down, going to the Pistons game, and hopping your ass back up 75 and dipping out.
I just realized that there should be a hotel near the stadium too.
Yeah. There's going to be. There's going to be with the train station.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, there's going to be.
I forgot about that. Yep. Okay, this one's a nerd question.
Well, we're nerds.
Media nerd question.
Ooh, fantastic.
It's in a couple of parts, so I put them together. I paste them together. So Lisa from Royal Oak, why do you link to stories with paywalls in your newsletter or talk about them on the show? She says that we should screenshot and copy the text, put that in our newsletter. Mark from Warren, I'll add, says that we shouldn't even mention stories where we got them if they're not free to read. So there's some stuff I think a lot of people don't know about content. And I think we got to get into it for a second. This is
Go ahead.
Media literacy moment. I'm going to try to keep this brief because this is really nerdy.
Yeah.
We'd get sued.
Yep.
Because that's stealing. The reason we link to it, or I'll put a comment or a +1.
It's called attribution, my friends.
Right. I want to give attribution to that work. Now, is it a paywall? Yes. Do I think that a paywall is not great? Yes. But I'm also keenly aware that as I pay these subscriptions, okay, we pay a lot of subscriptions here at Daily Detroit, that the math, and as an operator, the math doesn't math for free websites and quality content for text on the web specifically. It's one of the reasons why we do audio.
I mean, my thing is
just, it just doesn't. I want to just say, I want to give that attribution. I want to encourage a conversation. There is some quality work that is behind paywalls. I know it sucks, but pasting the whole article in, that's copyright infringement. We can't do that.
We can't do that. But also, I just want to say this to my friends out there. And yes, I know paywalls are frustrating, especially when it comes to your big newspapers in the world, because we all know the margins there. But also at the same time, don't you want journalists to make a living? That's part of the reason why the industry itself has been in such dire straits, is because people don't want to pay money for good journalism. And why not? I pay for the New York Times. I recently canceled my subscription to Washington Post. But I know people who've written for the New York Times and for Washington Post and all that. I want to support them. I want to make sure that they can make a living off their work. And I think we have to get out of this ideology that all information either should be totally free. I think the vessel for which the information comes to, being the internet, should be free. I think that's a utility, like water. But do I think that access to that quality information comes at a cost? Absolutely.
I think a lot of the public doesn't understand how much hours and how many hours it takes to do something. So right now, we have one of our contributors working on a data story.
Yeah.
They've put 16 hours in it. We're not even sure it's going to air.
Right.
Because that's how it is. It's not like we're just pulling it out of the air. It's not like they're pulling it out of the air. All this takes time and effort. When we edit the show, every show we do, it's and we don't charge for ours. We have the Patreon.
Yeah.
And some sponsors on occasion, which you can always contact me, dailydetroit@gmail.com.
We love sponsors.
But patreon.com/dailydetroit, it helps keep it free for everyone else. But it's tight. And it's hard because people don't realize the finished product takes so much research and effort and, everything to keep the lights on.
Yeah. And so, to answer the question directly, we shouldn't link to stories that have paywalls. In some cases, man, that is the only verifiable source for that particular story. And so we have to be able, not just by law in terms of copyright infringement, but as our duty as good journalists, as our duty as good gatherers and disseminators of information, we have an obligation to you, the listener, the viewer, the reader, to provide you with sources. Because if we didn't do that, we'd be no better than Twitter. We'd be no better than Twitter or Threads or any other unverifiable source of information for that. So I'm not angry at you for asking that, but the premise of the question itself rubs me the wrong way because it devalues the work of journalists, and I think that's part of how we got here.
And you should stand on this for a minute. Why don't you tell people some of your background? Because maybe they don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I've done for the majority of my life. I mean, I set out to be a journalist when I was 15 years old, and that's what I've always done. I went to Wayne State for journalism. I've worked for WDET in various capacities as a journalist. I've written for various outlets as a journalist in terms of freelance and staff. I've worked for radio stations in Metro Detroit. This is what I do. And so it is a very personal and very visceral feeling for me when I hear that people don't want to pay for good work. We don't treat any other industry like that, right? We get a good video game and we pay $60 for it. We get a good book and we know we want to pay for it. We go to a restaurant and we know if we want quality, we're gonna pay an extra bit of money for it. We do this for everything in our lives except for certain things like journalism. And I just think that is how we've gotten here because we've devalued not just the work of journalists, but the time that goes into it, the research, the resources, the relationship building that it takes. Sometimes the work for a story starts years before the story ever comes out. You know what I mean? And so if I do the work for years to foster a relationship with a congressperson to be able to get them comfortable enough to give me exclusive, I'm not doing that just out the kindness of my heart. I feel I should be paid for that because I worked really hard to do it. And so, again, I'm not angry at you personally. I'm not angry that the question is asked. I am angry that we are even in a climate that makes it a question that has to be asked.
Well, I was at a party the other night, and I joked that I'm more carnival barker than journalist because I think it's important to tell people that. I don't think journalists did a great job of telling people the work that went into it.
No,
right?
They thought it was magic,
that.
especially in the TV era. Like, especially when TV news really blew up in the late 80s, early 90s, and you know, all your TV journalists became the most trusted voices in news and cable news. Really, cable news was kind of the first nail in the coffin, the 24-hour news cycle. When it was like, oh, you could just sit up on the thing and just read off what somebody else did. Dude, there is something like 14 people that had to work to make that story get to air. And so, you know, it's a hurtful question to hear.
Jeremy from Ferndale. For interviews, I like when you ask what's something you thought you knew when you started that you learned is different. So asking that of you and Norris. So that's a signature question of mine. So Norris, what is something you thought you knew when you started that you learned is different?
I don't want to be pessimistic, so let me try.
I might be a little bit in mine.
Yeah, let me try to think of a positive phrase. I think one thing that I learned is that, and we actually talk about this on the show quite often. One thing that I learned is that there are way more people interested in moving in, living in, and contributing to the tapestry of Detroit from elsewhere in the country than there are from other parts of Michigan and Metro Detroit. That blew my mind. It blows my mind that I'm meeting people who are moving here from Chicago, from Charlotte, from Atlanta, from Tallahassee, from LA, from Seattle.
And they're in our listening audience.
Yeah, and this is just our audience, but just anecdotally in my personal life, just meeting all these people who are from other parts of the country. And by the way, of all racial, economic, and religious persuasions, who want to be and live in and contribute to Detroit. And then I talk to people who, you know, grew up in Oak Park or Troy or Oxford or South Lyon or something like that. And there's still this reticence to do anything in the city besides go to a Tigers game. it's shocking. It blows my mind. And that's no diss to our listeners who are from those areas. I'm not talking about y'all, but it's a truth, and it was very shocking to me to see that evolution over the past 5 to 6 years.
Something I learned, and I've worked. I started my career as a floor manager at Channel 4 News. Covering the Hudson's demolition. That's where my story starts with this. Worked a whole bunch of different things. I worked at the Detroit Regional News Hub as a media concierge with local and international journalists. I've done, corporate communications. I've done a bunch of stuff. One of the things from like 8 years ago to now, I remember when we got started doing this, and we'd get like tisk-tisked a lot by the official community.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, are you doing real, blah, 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 real, whatever it is, whatever you think is real, right? What I've learned is that what the public thinks is valuable local news is very often not what many journalists or many producers of it or many editors,
say station managers and editors,
think is valuable for local news. Like, you all tell us so strongly what you actually want us to talk about, whether it's new development. Like, to a local audience, telling people about the sandwich party is important, even though it's not like fraud and corruption. In fact, it works the other way around. Without the fun stuff, without the stuff that builds community, people don't pay attention to the more serious stories.
They don't care.
And I think that's something that all kinds of journalism missed in the last 10, 15 years in this change, in this digital changeover. There was all this thing of like, oh, we're going to go the most. They didn't realize the bundle was part of it. That people have to trust you. They have to have that interpersonal relationship. Because we'll talk about something very serious, but we'll also talk about something very fun. And that resonates with people. It brings people together.
And what that comes from is affinity, right? It's really hard to care about a place that you have no affinity for, right? So again, if you're from somewhere in the northern reaches or the far western reaches of Metro Detroit, let's say you're from Canton, right? Majority of what you do in life is centered around Canton, Plymouth, Westland, Northville, and not much beyond that, right? And I'm not saying you never come to the city. I'm just saying your civic engagement
because you have like a different style of city manager. Your city's only 100,000 people.
Exactly.
I don't say only, but you know what I mean? It's all on different scales.
Yeah, it's a different scale. And so you can feel either a lot closer to your politics, or you can feel not as attached to your politics in different ways. But the point is that you rarely, if ever, have to interface with Detroit as a political entity. However, if you're somebody who's coming to Detroit all the time, maybe you got family here, maybe you're dating somebody that lives in Detroit, whatever your connection is, maybe you just like being down here, you're going to care more about the well-being of the city itself. And so we talk a lot about these things to help create that affinity, because if people didn't love the riverfront of the city of Detroit, they wouldn't have cared about the story about corruption at the Riverfront Conservancy. If it was just a place that just existed and nobody visited it, no one would care that people were stealing money. But it's because you care as the listener, you care as citizens, that's when we can talk about it.
There's so much still to discover as well. I've shared this before, maybe not on the live show, but on the podcast. I do a regular segment for WJR. And not just through that, but even through our own work, how many people have never been to the DeQuinder Cut or have heard of the DeQuinder Cut, which is one of the most important parts of green infrastructure in our city?
Yeah.
Not just across the region, but in the city as well, right? There's so much more work to do with connecting the culture of our city today, not about what was the past. And what was the past is important, and we need to talk about it, and we should share those stories, but also what's there today. And that is missing in the context and in a friendly way where we all could get a coffee or a drink together at maybe the containers on the DeQuinder Cut and talk about it, right? That's why we do the studio open houses. It's a different way to approach everything, which is very, very, very different. Let's move on. Valerie or Christian A. Auto 06 on Threads. What is going on with the city of Detroit only caring about downtown and midtown and skips everywhere else?
Ooh, I think, okay, here we go. Time to get some people mad at me. Here's what we got to realize about what's happening right now. We got to call the game what it is. And what it is that downtown is doing better, and that is fueling people moving to the city. We got to just call that for what it is. Without that, we probably don't see a bump in population, right? We also got to acknowledge that the work that places like Wayne State and Midtown Incorporated did 15 years ago to get people my age to not leave the city. It's okay to have areas in your city where development is concentrated. I don't think inherently there's anything wrong with that. I think the city has done a not so great job at highlighting the work that it's doing elsewhere and highlighting the work that citizens and neighborhood groups and block clubs have done to maintain their neighborhoods. But with that said, there is no way to fix every neighborhood in Detroit all at once, all at the same time. There's going to be areas that get investment first. There's going to be areas that get investment, after Courtown. Because we're at a point now with Courtown where there's only so much more they're going to build. And before they have to, could decide to move elsewhere, they'll have to build vertically in Courtown before they start, stretching the borders of Courtown. But either way,
maybe you might see some more stuff in North Courtown.
Yeah, North Courtotown or whatever, Core City, so on and so forth. I do think that there needs to be more time and more investment and more ideas put forth in the neighborhoods. I'm not going to say that it doesn't, but I also think you got to start somewhere. And, being angry at development in a place, in the only part of the city where we can have true population density right now, I think is kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, personally.
I have two things to add to that. I think one, there's still so much work to be done in greater downtown as far as investment. And
the retail real estate down there is still only something like 40% filled.
Really? Okay, good and interesting number. I did not know that.
Yeah. It's close to something like that. It's like 40 to 50%.
There needs to be a lot more economic activity in order to be able to get out. Like, we're trying to fill a bathtub with like coffee mugs as far as economic activity. So we can't spill out until we get even more. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be more equitable. It does. The other thing is, as I mentioned this before on our mayoral live stream, the biggest lie that all these candidates are telling you is that everything can turn around at once.
No.
Because they can't. The reason why we have things like the Strategic Neighborhood Fund is because you have to focus, because you only have so much money. And nobody likes to hear that you only have so much money, but you do. Third thing is, tying into what you say about the story, okay, about sharing that. Mm-hmm. The other day, I was taking the bus to downtown, and I snapped pictures of buildings near my place that are all being actively rehabbed. What I mean is when I've driven by, I've seen contractors go in and out. I've seen people do stuff. And I shot these photos and I shared them on our Patreon Discord because, like, these are all things happening out on, like, Grand Boulevard.
Yeah.
This is stuff happening.
This is not downtown.
This is not downtown. And there is that energy. Sure, there needs to be a lot more. But it's happening, and it's going to take time.
I mean, it's interesting, too, because, I think about Avenue of Fashion in particular, right, where I think about what it was 15, 20 years ago, right, when I was working at Northwest Activity Center. And sure, there were businesses there. There were some things there, and people were holding together for the most part. But if you went down there today and you saw how beautiful Livernois is from about 6 Mile all the way up to 8 Mile. And you see how beautiful it is up there, how many businesses are open, how many people walking up and down the street. That's not downtown. That's almost as far as you can get from downtown, right? But it's a neighborhood, and it's people investing and keeping that neighborhood together. And obviously, listen, I know it's Sherwood Forest, it's university, but that just goes to show when you have strong neighborhoods that the commercial corridors will be invested in. And so that's not going to be able to happen everywhere all at once. But it shows that when you can keep a neighborhood stable, first and foremost, then you can invest.
This also ties back to the earlier question about media. And I'm going to just share something that I don't like sharing. When we talk about Corktown, when we talk about downtown, when I talk about the stadiums, we talk about Midtown, we talk about Eastern Market, everybody knows what it is and everybody reads it. Nobody, like when I mention, even when I start to get into things like Island View and Indian Village, heck, we had listeners wondering like, oh, I never heard of Sherwood Forest
Or Brightmoor.
or Brightmoor. One of the reasons you're the Prince of Brightmoor is to tell people Brightmoor is there.
It's there. That's if y'all want to know actually where that came from, that's part of why.
Right. And so that is the key to this is that, yes, some of those things are happening, but also they're not going to get the same traction because media outlets outside of ours who are like in it, right? We're super steeped in it in a way. And there's a few other examples, but people click on the things that agree with their narrative. So what agrees with a lot of people's narrative?
Detroit is on the comeback.
But also that downtown is where it's all happening and nothing's happening.
And nothing's happening in the neighborhood.
When it's a complex story. Complex stories don't work well on social media. It's one of the reasons why I've been fading away from social media a little bit lately. It's hard to be like, okay, like this is happening, but also this sucks. That doesn't really, nobody likes that, right? They want a strong thing that reinforces their thing. And when you're talking about bigger media outlets, your TV stations, your whatever, sure, there's going to be some stuff they do in neighborhoods, but they're going to go where everybody knows your name.
And also, I also want to push back on it from the sense of, and I got checked on this one time, and I actually really appreciated somebody calling me out for this. Is that when we talk about these neighborhoods that are still together, nobody talks about the Southwest, and the Southwest has been kicking and moving along, and more stuff, investment in businesses and clubs and bars and restaurants. Some of the best restaurants in the country have been in Southwest Detroit, like Errol Barzan, Flowers for Vietnam, places like that have all been in Southwest Detroit, and we haven't talked about it enough. Southwest Detroit has been stable for 20 years. It has been densely populated for 20, 25 years. And, you know, so when I hear this stuff, you know, about the neighborhoods aren't being invested in, we know that. We know that certain neighborhoods aren't getting the money and the attention that they should. But also at the same time, we cannot fix everything all at once.
I think
We can't.
about just recently, I'm over at McClellan and Jefferson at a beautiful coffee shop that didn't exist 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, think about what's happening in Kercheval and what is that, Seminole, right? Like that whole little commercial, like from Van Dyke to Seminole, like that whole commercial corridor right there that's being invested in. Also, something we got to be very cognizant of is that the city has yet to redo its zoning code. And if you go into parts of Indian Village over there, like Agnes, Kercheval, along that Van Dyke corridor, you see things like apartment buildings that were built in the 20s and 30s that people can move into. And now you have a more vibrant neighborhood.
Those aren't legal to build now.
Not legal to build. Can't do it anymore. And so there's no mechanism for which we could take areas like oh, we got a siren. So there's no legal mechanism for which that we could take areas like Brightmoor or Old Redford or down there by McKenzie or anything like that and build apartment buildings in these neighborhoods, you know, maybe where an old school stood, and begin to bring density and life and vibrancy back to these neighborhoods. The city literally has not allowed it. And so until we fix that aspect of it, it's going to be harder to get people to move to those areas.
Tom from Detroit. Hey, Jer, was wondering if you had any insights on recycling and or compost programs in Detroit. I recently moved back to the city from D.C., where there is a robust recycling culture, and have been struggling to find a useful way to responsibly dispose of these types of waste products. Okay, got a couple things for you. One, there is a pilot program that just started this month, like literally 7 days ago, funded by a $100,000 grant from Carhartt. The first 200 people who sign up, it's compost drop-off. The drop-off is at the People's Food Co-op over in the North End, like Woodward and Euclid.
Yep.
And go sign up. We'll put a link in the show notes to it. I'm sure you can find it. It's through the City of Detroit's Office of Sustainability. And so this brings together a bunch of partners to do this. If you sign up for the pilot program, you will get a free 5-gallon composting bucket for the approved materials. And those will include fruit and vegetable scraps, small bones, eggshells, plate scrapings, napkins, food soil, paper products, coffee grounds, and used paper towels. So that is a very cool thing. The other thing I'd add as a longtime Detroiter, still open, is Recycle Here. That is at 5960 Lincoln Street, right in here near the studio. They've been doing amazing stuff for many years. Nothing like a Saturday morning. You go drop off your recycling, and then you go to Eastern Market, right?
Love it.
That's what you do. You know, they take a whole bunch of things. They take styrofoam, film plastics, hard plastics, metal, glass, paper, no tissue or wax paper, cardboard, juice and broth cartons, and books and hardcovers, no binders. They've been around for a long time. They also have like this junk swap thing where when you drop off stuff, if there's some junk that you want or want to repurpose into art and things, that is a place that you want to check out. It's been around for a long time. Also, curbside recycling is a thing in the city now. You just got to get the blue bin.
Yep.
But going out there and doing that work is really cool. And being part of that composting program would be a really cool thing. And so would going by Recycle Here. Really funky stuff over there. Always fun to like load up the car, go do that. I've done it a bunch of times. And they're great people over there. Really fun. Really fun. Norris Howard.
Yes, sir.
For today, for this podcast episode, we are done. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our members on Patreon, patreon.com/daily Detroit. Local media needs local support to survive. We will be back tomorrow with Mr. Devin O'Reilly. Thank you so much for listening.
Mr. Friday.
Yeah, that's right. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit. Okay, we got the podcast recorded. Let's get to the chat.
Let's go.
Let's go and get into the chat because I've only got limited time because I have a vet appointment.
Yep.
Everything's fine.
First of all, much respect to everybody who slid into the chat. Some old favorites. Mr. 1213, what's going on? I just want to answer your question with a little bit more context, which is specifically around people moving to the city from other parts of the country. Maybe they're moving to other parts of the country because it's cheaper to buy a 2 to 3 bedroom bungalow house for $80,000, have your own plot of land, and live in an apartment. Yes, that's true.
I was talking to people at a party last night.
That's true.
Who did exactly that.
There's that. Two things can be true. But also what I've noticed is the people buying those 2 and 3 bedroom bungalows for $80,000 are also putting an additional $100,000 into that house and building it up and adding additions and resodding the lawn and doing all that other stuff and are very excited to be a part of the community. That is what I'm talking about. I could care less where you come from and how much money you got. If you ready to be a part of this community, I want you here. Period.
For sure. Michael, welcome back. Always good to see you. We've had good turnout today. I thought it might be a little bit slow, but no. Michael, thank you for coming back. Great comments on paying for journalism information. Yeah, I know it's really nerdy. I know that on the main show, I'm going to see the analytics drop off because nobody wants to be told about that. But I think it's important that I just keep talking about it. I understand how this stuff works a little bit more than the average bear. I don't understand everything.
And some people should be scolded. I'm just on that topic. For me, yes, you should.
Kari, I need to check out all of that interview. By the way, Kari Frazier.
Yeah, we love Kari.
For years.
We love
It was
Kari.
so funny because there's like, people are always like, do you, blah, blah. No, Kari's amazing. Kari's awesome. We love Kari. And I don't mean that specifically. Just, you know, some people are like, oh, well, this outlet or that. We love everybody.
We do.
Kari's amazing. I need to check out that whole interview with Alex Washington because I had heard she was changing careers. I'm going to check that out. Maybe you need to come into the studio sometime and talk about this stuff because I think it's really important. And if go check out his channel at Detroit is Different. He's got a whole catalog of interviews doing a public service. It's different than ours.
Yep.
Like in-depth stuff with folks that like you're just not going to get anywhere else.
You get the deep dives. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Let's keep going. Josh just made it in time for the post show. Yes, you did. Welcome, Josh. Sorry that we recorded a little bit earlier, but I mean, generally, we're going to try to always be at that same time now.
Yeah, we're going to try our best.
Try our best.
Yeah.
Siron Rain? Has there been any update on the music hall expansion or the mid? Music hall, what was the latest with that? The mid's been...
The mid's an albatross right now.
Yeah.
The mid's an albatross. Like the problem with the mid is that I think it's just changed hands too many times. There was talk of another apartment going there, but then stuff was going weird with Hammer and Nail, and yeah, I think mid right now is in flux, unfortunately, because you know what makes me so mad about the mid in particular is like that is one of the last plots of land on Woodward, like not in downtown, that actually could be used for something really dope, like really dope. Like even if they flattened it all and just made a big park, it would be like the only big park in Midtown, and you could do it.
Yeah, I am trying to remember all of the details, but I do know that I heard originally they were supposed to break ground. Were they supposed to break ground earlier this year?
Yeah, in March.
I think something with the funding didn't line
It was
up.
supposed to be in March, I believe.
Yeah, it was supposed to be in March. It is. It's not. It's now past March.
Yeah, it's not. It's just a lot past March. So it's an albatross, man. I
One
think.
thing, well, so I'm talking about the music hall specifically.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing I got to think about, and this actually, I'm thinking about this because of another story. Down in Wyandotte, they have severely cut down a project due to tariffs.
You know it.
It went from 30 to 12 units, and then the subsidy per unit had to go up down in downtown Wyandotte.
If it ain't billionaire backed, bro, it's gonna be moving slow.
With steel tariffs and everything else, they're like, basically the costs have gone so high, we've got to scale it back. I imagine that this is going to screw with the numbers for the music hall.
Yeah, probably.
And this is where national news comes local. All these costs are going up. I know that there's a big thing about build here and all that other stuff, but understand that if you are for these things, then you are against development.
Yep.
Because that development is going to become more expensive. I'm going to tell you, it very well may become, I'm not saying the music hall in this particular instance, but there are projects I know of that are dying because now the costs don't make any sense. And it also pushes the rents up of the final project, making them less affordable.
Yeah, and this is part of the reason why, you know, those in the know and anybody with, I'm gonna say it, anybody with half a brain was telling you that these tariffs were a bad idea. We get majority of our steel from Canada.
Or wood.
We get majority of our timber from Canada.
Well, there's a bunch of other countries too. And the other thing is the uncertainty. So if you don't know what the tariff is going to be, right? So now
you can't spend
50% in India or something like that. You cannot responsibly plan out that this project is going to cost X because it could wildly change by millions of dollars.
Billions, depending on scope.
And we are seeing, like, one of the reasons you're starting to see, like, Michigan is now coming up one of the highest unemployment rates. Our manufacturing sector is getting screwed because they're just stopping.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. They don't, people, like, there's this whole online narrative that is ass-hattery that, like, oh, well, they're just going to do all America. That isn't, well, American, move it. You don't understand shit about how the world works.
And also,
this stuff
half
takes
the stuff,
longer.
Half the stuff. This is like, oh, we got a tariff on Kuala Lumpur. We got a tariff on coffee, bro. We can't make coffee in America.
Right.
We literally cannot. It is physically impossible to make coffee plants survive,
Except for
in
Hawaii.
America, except for Hawaii. That's it. And I'm not sure if y'all saw how much it cost to live in Hawaii, but that would be economically untenable unless you're trying to pay $45 for a bag of coffee.
And here's the thing. I'm actually for American-made stuff. I've always been for American-made stuff. I'm from a union family.
Yeah, I'm
there's
not saying don't buy American.
But like how we're doing it shows me gross incompetency.
Yeah.
Like whatever you think of the plan, like I actually think that there is a point for some of the stuff. The way it's being rolled out is like, yeah, we don't care about like your job. Like we just care about whatever thing's going to work really well on social media. And again, this is why I'm starting to be like, screw social media more and more. And I've been writing more in the newsletter for that reason. I've been taking some of the energy from social media, putting it into our newsletter, and it's been a lot better for feedback for the community and really thoughtful questions.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah. Not that we don't appreciate the social media stuff that we've gotten.
Right.
Definitely. We have some great followings. But yeah, it's definitely definitely something there. So let's see who we got in here. Anything that we're missing? The Greenway. I don't know that answer right now off the top. When will the Joe? So Mr. 1213. When will the Joe Louis Greenway connect to the Southeast Greenway next to the Southwest Greenway next to the train station? That is a Detroit Greenways Coalition question.
Yes. Give me
a minute. I don't have a minute.
Give us a minute. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, I will get into this one because I think we need to get like an updated timeline on all
We
that
should
stuff.
get them back.
And you know who else we had on here? The Joe Louis Greenway executive director.
Yeah, we should get them back and see, because people really like the Greenway, like the idea of it.
Would we want to do a meetup at the Greenway Trailhead on West Warren? Is that something we would want to do?
Yeah.
All right.
Why not? I'm never gonna say no to meeting the people. I'm never gonna say no to that. Listen, you guys are
Producer
awesome.
Adam and producer Randy are just going to be there, just hauling like giant jugs of coffee and wheelbarrows full of donuts.
Does that sound like a bad idea to anybody?
That's true. I would be like Scrooge McDuck in DuckTales.
And diving into the donuts?
Yes, that's exactly what I would do. That's exactly what I do. Let's do a little quick search and make sure we got everybody's thing.
You know, I call him Mr. 1213. His mama named him Mr. 1213. I'm going to call him Mr. 1213. So anyway.
You know what? Every time I see 1213 on the clock, I think of him.
Yeah. So I'm going to just say this. You know, he had one more comment saying about people moving to the city. He said people always say that no one's investing in neighborhoods. But I would say it could be many investors don't want to invest their money in neighborhoods where the investments might be destroyed. I think it's a harsh comment. I understand where it's coming from. I think it's not necessarily about the investment being destroyed, but about seeing a return on the investment that makes sense. So it's difficult to want to go out and build an apartment building on, let's say, Grand River and Schaefer, when no one lives on Grand River and Schaefer, right? Like, that neighborhood has been decimated.
You heard the interview I did with Shay Whitfield from Bargain Block, and talking about the importance of comps. People don't realize, like, you need to in order to get financing, unless you're rich, unless you're Uncle Dan.
Yep.
You need to have comps for the bank to give you any money. Even if you pay for it yourself, you need to have comps for comparatives for you to sell it to somebody else who needs a bank loan.
Yep. And
so with the Bargain Block boys, they always did that stuff together to try to create that. So that's one of the reasons why you're seeing that development roll out that way. That's a fiduciary reason, a financial institution reason that you're seeing that, right? Because you need to have those comps. You need to have something to be like, oh, that house down the street sold for $100,000. Well, then I can sell for 110.
And that's why it's difficult to see density programs start out in the neighborhoods, is because there are no comps. There's no way for us to know what a 4/1 in, Rosedale Park is going to do until they finish this latest project.
And I will mention that you're not talking out of your ass, because you're actually like,
I'm a licensed real estate professional.
You are a licensed real estate professional, so you're not talking out of your ass.
No, so that's part of why. It's not the only reason, but it is part of why it's difficult to get those projects off the ground. And so, I think there are areas in the city where somebody can just take a financial risk and get it done. There's still the density, the neighborhood is still together, and there's enough people who I think would show interest in it. But to Mr. 1213's point, somebody's got to be willing to take a pretty large financial risk to do it. And in a time where we're talking about tariffs and everything's going to cost more to build, and then it's going to cost, you got to charge more for the people to live in it, and then it's going to have to be additional cost to maintain it because energy costs are going up. Yeah, there's going to be less development in the city of Detroit, or at least
anywhere.
I'm keeping it Detroit. Anywhere is true, but I'm keeping it in Detroit.
We talked about Wyandotte, which they have. Things have been hopping in downtown Wyandotte for a while.
But there's just going to be, particularly medium to large scale development projects like this. I mean, even home building has slowed down precipitously, like a lot. People are not building new homes. So
can you put precipitous and matriculate together in a sentence?
Yeah, let me try. I was matriculating through the streets of Wyandotte the other day and noticed that investment had dropped precipitously as no new developments were happening.
There you go. Oh, there you go. He did it. He did it. Michael, I appreciate the good words about the dog. Yes, I hope everything's fine too. It's so important. Do the regular checkups. It's a thing. Like I love dogs. I'm a big dog person. I just want to grab every single one that I drive by. Unfortunately, I drive by too many of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we try our best. And
We love Pupperinos.
yes, and Izzy is a sweetheart.
She is.
She is-
She is the sweetest, like most biggest teddy bear.
And you know, the thing is that
That's how all pits are, though. Actually,
yeah, and I'm a pity guy. I'm a pity guy.
Pits are teddy bears. Like when people are just like, "Oh my god, a pit bull," it's like no, it's just because they're being raised by a jerk. Like pit bulls are so sweet if you're just nice to them. If you are nice to your pit bull, they are gigantic, muscle-headed babies.
They're called nanny dogs for a reason.
Yeah.
If you take care of them.
if you take care of them.
So like mine actually now, her favorite thing is she just goes to sleep and she just watches the bird cage because there's now a couple birds at the house. She doesn't ever go after the birds. She just like, oh, this is the birds. I'm going to listen to them and I'm just going to vibe.
I'm just on vibe, man. And so, you know, we love the Pupperinos at Daily Detroit. We're definitely, I think, more a dog show than a cat show.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on some stuff around the dogs. We got so much that's going on, especially
Yeah.
in September.
Yeah, September's gonna be a big month.
If people have ideas about when you want to do the studio get together, let me know which Saturday. Also, if you're on the member only Discord, let us know. Also, we need to do a in person, like out and about, get to a bar.
Yeah, we might just drop down at a bar somewhere, kick it,
Yeah.
have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, I gotta let people go. I got a hard out at 3:00. I feel so corporate.
Got a hard out.
I have a hard
Got
out.
a hard out at 3.
I appreciate our meeting of the minds for a net win-win.
That's right. It's gonna be great.
All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Thank you for all of your comments. We will be back next week with that. I am Jer Stays.
And I'm Norris Howard.
Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.